Hello and welcome to our podcast. I'm Danny, and today Greg.com talks with Adam Murray, the Community Development Manager and Office Manager at Cara-Friend. If you haven't heard of it, Cara-Friend works to promote the well-being and equality of LGBTQI plus people in Northern Ireland through support, advocacy, and social engagement. If you're new here to this podcast, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Hi, Adam, and welcome.
Hi, Danny. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Very busy.
Well, thank you for taking some time to talk to us today. It's a pleasure, and I'm really excited to learn more about what you guys have been doing there in North Ireland. But let's begin. I always do this, learning more about history. I feel it's important for us to know how long have you guys been working, and what was the motivation behind the founding of the organization. So let's begin with it.
Well, history and heritage has been something on my mind a lot recently because this is actually our 50th anniversary year. Cara-Friend was set up in 1974, long before my time with the organization. But basically, Cara-Friend started life. There was what was called the Gay Liberation Society at Queen's University Belfast, and that was very politically active. That was pre-decriminalization of homosexuality here. So they were largely a political organization trying to campaign for law reform. But they and other LGBT or gay and lesbian activists, as it was at the time, they recognized the need for building community and supporting the community. Um, so they set up Cara-Friend. Other organizations such as London Friend were set up in other cities around the UK and Ireland. And we were called Cara-Friend because Cara in Irish is the word for friend. So it was to show the names in Irish and English, to show that it was cross community. Because in the very early 70s here in Northern Ireland, obviously the Troubles was in full swing. So that's it was set up really to not so much to focus on the political law reform at the time, but to actually like answer letters, answer phone calls, talk to members of the community and support them.
Oh, I love how you brought this information about the name because it was something that was going on in my mind, and I feel like it really shows the core, right, of Cara-Friend. It's about bringing people together and creating this beautiful community. And help us understand better what are the issues that your community is facing right now. I believe that since 50 years ago, some advancement has happened in society, but we know that there are still a lot of challenges that we need to overcome. So, what is going on right now?
So at the moment, yes, you're right. We have seen a lot of very progressive uh, legal reforms and changes there. And within my time, I've been with Cara-Friend about 14, 15 years. And even in my, relatively brief time, we've had the introduction of same-sex civil partnerships and then eventually even same-sex marriage. We've overturned or lessened rather the ban on gay and bisexual men donating blood. We've been able to change the rules so that a same-sex couple can apply to adopt the same as any other couple and be judged on the merits of that application. So we have seen some big steps forward in terms of equality under law. We've also seen great strides forward in terms of public perception, support from the general community. We've seen a lot of support. It's particularly the marriage equality campaign when a lot of the politicians were dragging feet on that one or opposing it. It was clear that the public was with us. But at the moment, we are still seeing major challenges. And actually, after the marriage equality win, it felt like some people were sort of saying, well, now you have everything you want. Why are you still complaining? But well, we have major challenges in our schools. Homophobic and transphobic bullying are still very prevalent in our schools. And unfortunately, here, there's not a education-wide approach really taken in fixing that. You have to sort of deal with each school individually. The hate crime statistics are some of the highest they've been on record in terms of hate incidents and hate crimes. I was looking at the stats recently, and over the last 10 years, some of those have went up like 550%. Now, whether that's because more people are reporting their experiences because, they're engaging with charities such as Cara-Friend and our colleagues and others, such as the Rainbow Project and Here and I'd say there is a bit of that. People are more confident in reporting to the police than they used to be. But I think that we are seeing some very unfortunate incidents of physical attacks that still, unfortunately, and intimidation. People throwing things at people's houses and saying, gays get out, things like that. So we still have major challenges there. There's also big challenges in healthcare. In terms of the gender identity service here for trans individuals, the healthcare system here is broken. It is just completely broken. The process is still a very medicalist one where you have to jump through a lot of hoops, very stereotypical and outdated hoops, frankly. And that can be a 2-year process, but you can be on the waiting list to begin that process for 4+ years. They say they just don't have the money, they don't have the specialists. The realities, and we've also just seen a major review in Great Britain and England and Wales, a review of gender identity services, which we fear will actually just mean that young people have no right to self-identify themselves, and be who they want to be. So there's major challenges in terms of the healthcare system here. Similarly, there are challenges, still major challenges for lesbian and bisexual women's access to like IVF. Excuse me. But the system here says that in order to get, because we have state-funded healthcare here, it's funded through taxation, but the rules are that if you want to get state-funded IVF, you have to try naturally 3 times before you're allowed to do that, and 2 lesbians or a lesbian bisexual woman can try 1,000,000 times. It ain't gonna happen. So there are disparities here. There are still challenges. There is still, unfortunately, kernels of hatred, bigotry, and prejudice, and unfortunately, of course, ignorance. We are also, I say that one of the major, if not the major challenge we're facing at the moment is that trans, non-binary, and gender diverse people are feeling more scared than ever. There's so much attention in the media and amongst sort of reactionary politics, and especially in very hate-filled online social media spaces. There's a real pushback against their rights and even their existence, frankly. So we're seeing that as a major challenge that we're having to deal with, and all of the mental health impacts that all of these issues then have on the community and the physical health and well-being impacts that come with it too. So yeah, we've made some big steps forward, but we are still unfortunately having to fight so that we can see a society where everybody is respected, equal, and safe.
I always think it's so bizarre when someone says, hey, you got everything you wanted, right? You got these basic rights secured by law. So what else do you want? And oftentimes I think, where is this coming from? Is this coming just from pure ignorance, from pure privilege, or just from pure hate? I don't really know. It could be anything else, but it's really a shame that we are still facing prejudice in this level, right? Especially in schools. If we think about it, school is such a hard time for everyone. It can be great, but if you add prejudice to it, it's just wow, it's just awful.
But we have seen great strides even there as well, and we're continuing to make great strides when it comes to education system and schooling and whatnot. I recall, when we would write to schools and offer to deliver, awareness, basic LGBT awareness training, and no school would come near it because they sort of thought because I think if you go back even just 10 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, there's this equation in some people's minds that if you're talking about things like sexual orientation or gender identity, you're talking about sex. And you're not actually, you're just talking about, the diversity of people and their their romantic and their love lives and who they're attracted to and whatnot. So, but I have to credit subsequent generations after me. Young LGBTQI plus young people are coming out a lot younger than they were when I was a teenager. When I came out, Cara-Friend had 1 youth group. and we were all university age, and we sort of held off maybe coming out until we went to university when we had a little bit more freedom to start anew. And there was one group of maybe about 15, 20 people. Fast forward to today, and Cara-Friend still has our Belfast group, but overwhelmingly the people are in that group are aged 12 to 16 or like 16 to 21. So every year, it seems that LGBT youth were coming out younger. And I think that's largely down to the increased access to the internet, their ability to form online communities, and find each other and have these conversations about community. So, um, so because they've been coming out whilst still in secondary school, which is new here, and that level, it means that their schools have to deal with it because often those children, unfortunately, then get bullied, they get picked on, or they get tried to get ostracized. There's terrible statistics. We do research every, few years and whatnot with young people. And there's still a lot of bullying. There's still a lot of young LGBT people dropping out of school or just not achieving their full potential because of the impacts of the bullying and whatnot. But now schools do reply to our letters and actually come writing to us saying, we have these young LGBT kids in the school now and we don't know what to do. So we have an education and training team here who deliver LGBTQI plus awareness training and what's called all-out anti-bullying training. And we deliver that in schools. We deliver training to pupils. We deliver training to staff. And what we find is that once schools get over the initial apprehension, perhaps, and they actually see what's in the training, the content, and the impact that it has, they're usually very interested then in having us come back again to deliver the training to other pupils or other years. And actually some of the, because we also have a school's charter system that is more sustained than like one-off training. We're seeing schools try and meet some of the goals of that charter. For example, setting up gay straight alliances in their schools, putting up LGBT notice boards and allowing LGBT people to speak out more openly and whatnot. So it's like something very sustained is happening, I think, which is great. It's not just firefighting here and there where an incident of bullying just gets too much for the school to handle. Some schools are really starting to wake up to the reality that LGBT kids exist actually, and they deserve to be respected. They deserve to be treated equally. And as I say, whenever they come to school, they deserve to be safe.
Well, that's really amazing work, Adam. I think you being able to deliver this quality content, let's say, to schools and be there with the kids, it's really it's groundbreaking. I think it's vital, vital, vital. And I'm gonna use this to jump into the services that you offer, right? Because this is just one bit of it. You are very active in other areas as well. So let's talk about it. What else are you able to provide in terms of services to people in Northern Ireland?
So as well as delivering training in the schools, we'll also deliver that to, we don't charge schools, but we do charge businesses. So we would deliver awareness training to staffed organizations in the private sector, or we deliver it to public bodies, academic institutions, community groups, anyone really who just wants to learn a bit more, we'll engage with as much or as little as they want, really. So we do a lot of education and training, and we have an education and training team of 2 people. So we actually cover a lot of ground, though. Our youth service is bigger and better than ever. We are, as I say, we have a Belfast group that meets 3 evenings a week. We also coordinate an LGBTQI plus inclusive youth network across Northern Ireland. So that will be youth groups that maybe we don't run ourselves, but we work with them to help them make sure that their youth group is a safe, welcoming place for LGBT young people in their area. And that, again, it's all about raising awareness, making places safe spaces. So we have a youth team. A lot of my colleagues are in the youth team. We have an education training team. My role with Cara-Friend is sort of like Frankenstein's monster. It's a hodgepodge of different things. I'm the office manager here. I organize events throughout the year for the community, such as like Holocaust Memorial, a hub of what's called Outing the Past, which is an LGBT history festival. I'm one of the organizers that coordinates LGBTQI plus Awareness Week. And actually, You can be the first. These literally arrived here today. No one has seen these, but this is our new. This is our booklets. We have 28 events taking place next week. Awareness raising workshops, a keynote event with community members who will give like personal testimonies and some community updates. We're having a meeting at Stormont, our local parliament. Now it's back up and running to engage with the politicians, and then all sorts of things like quilting workshops and film nights and just different educational things. So 28 events next week. And that's one of the things that I would do is organize events. And obviously, as soon as Awareness Week's over, we're straight into Pride season because there's used to be there's Belfast Pride started in the very early 90s, and then you also have Pride in Derry/Londonderry, city with five names. But now we're also seeing like Pride in Omagh, Pride in the North Coast, Pride in Fermanagh. So we're actually seeing, and to come back to the history slightly, we used to see a real exodus of people, LGBT people from this area. You know, they would move to the States, they would move to Australia, Canada, and of course a lot to England, Scotland, and Wales. Not only are we see, you know, that has slowed and people aren't leaving, they're staying in their villages, they're staying in their towns, they don't need to go to the anonymity of a big city, and they're actually starting to openly organize in their communities, which is really new for here. It's only like, you know, the last 5 years or so. And it's wonderful to see, actually. So we do our best to support as many of those Pride organizations as we can by, you know, attending, marching, doing stalls and things like that. So yeah, we're a team of about 10, I think, at the moment. We obviously have, you know, our volunteers, people who help us. We do a helpline that, you know, so Cara-Friend started life as a PO box that people could write to. We're very lucky, actually. The Public Records Office of Northern Ireland has I think over 1,000 letters that were written to us between the 70s and the 2000s. So uh, we cover a lot of ground. We've grown a lot over the years. So the helpline's still going. We answer. We actually get an increasing number of messages these days from people from like North Africa, the Middle East, Afghanistan, people who are really, you know, at the sharpest edge of violence against LGBT people. And it, obviously, as a small charity based in Northern Ireland, it's very difficult for us to do anything practical. But we signpost them to local organizations or international organizations. Some of the work that I would do would be, for example, to advocate on people's behalf. So I'll be meeting next week with one of the UN special rapporteurs on housing to talk about, you know, the impacts of how homelessness can impact LGBT people. And we've supported, as a charity, we've supported people, you know, who've been rejected by their families, forced out of their family homes and things like that. Most of them very young. So yeah, we do our best to cover as much ground as possible, but I would say that one of the ways we do this most effectively is by working really closely with other local LGBT charities. We work very hard to try and not duplicate each other's work or, you know, compete against each other when we're trying to find money. You know, we all rent together in this building and just call it the LGBT Center. We're working with City Council here collectively to get a new, more permanent LGBT center, you know, a larger one. So really collaboration and working together over the last sort of 15 years has really changed the game for us. And I think I'm very proud. I've been very lucky that I can travel and meet LGBT organizations. I've been to Ukraine, I've been to Albania, France, Germany, Italy, Slovenia, and every time I go away and see what's happening around the world, I become very proud of how Northern Ireland punches above its weight in terms of supporting its LGBT community.
Wow. I love how we talk about this collaboration bit because you are covering so much ground. And I'm going to tell people to go to your page, cara-friend.org.uk. You can find the link in the description of this episode because we touched base here, guys, but the things that they are doing are so much more than this. So go there and get informed. But going back to the collaborations, I feel like this is something so powerful. Every time that I talk to an LGBTQI plus organization, this is something that always comes up. Of course, it did come up in other interviews, but it feels like a different type of empowerment, if I can say. So, thinking about this and thinking about how we individuals can also make collaborations with you, what would be the best ways for everyone listening to us right now help you guys on this journey?
Well, like every charitable organization, donations are appreciated, and there's details on our website for if anyone would like to make a donation. But even more so than that, if anyone is, hearing what I've been talking about, if you're in a business, if you're in an academic institution or a community group, and you would be interested, in engaging with Cara-Friend to some degree, thanks to Zoom actually and online platforms, we can deliver training. I do about a 40-minute workshop all about the history of Cara-Friend, where I can go into much more detail and talk about like the time the police raided their offices in the 70s, and and all sorts of things that I don't have time to touch on today. So if anyone would be like interested in learning more, just fire us an email, tell us a bit about yourself. If you're a community group or a business, or you want to learn more about the history, or maybe you want some awareness training. We just engage with us, I suppose, and we'll figure out what works.
Thank you so much, Adam, for joining us today. This was a great conversation.
Thank you.
And to everyone else watching or listening to us right now, thank you so much again for staying with us for this more episode. And remember, if you liked it, press subscribe on YouTube or on your podcast app. Share this episode with your friends, with your family. Show that you care. Tell them about this amazing initiative. And this will help us to show the algorithms that this is an important conversation. And then we can spread the word about the importance of Cara-Friend. Bye, and I see you in the next episode.